extra blessed. Today is a new beginning. It is the first day of this year, a clean slate, a fresh start. And to me, this is another example of God's perfect timing and how good and faithful He is throughout my life. Today I want to talk about who I am in Christ and a little bit of the journey that came with that. Looking back on my life, I see the many ways that the Lord has been faithful in times of doubt, where He has been forgiving in times when I have been rooted in sin and continue struggling within that, where He has been love in times I have been rejecting. He has taught me lessons of patience and being content in the now. And throughout all these things and more, I have learned and am continually learning who I am in Him. When I was 5, I was adopted into the Vox family. I have been raised in a Christian family, and I have known and believed in Jesus my whole life. I honestly cannot remember when I accepted Jesus into my heart, but it was when I was younger. I have always been surrounded by the Christian lifestyle. I've gone to church my whole life, attended youth groups, camps, along with being in various worship teams, and I graduated from Calvin Christian High School. So in a way, I've never not known Jesus. Just over a year ago, I went to Maui, Hawaii for a disciple mission school called YOM. It stands for Youth with a Mission. There I did a 6-month program called Disciple Training School. This 6 months was broken into halves. The first 3 months were like a school. We would have lectures every day for every week, and every week we'd have a different speaker. This 3-month chunk was called the lecture phase. The second half was outreach, where we would go into the nations and apply what we had learned. Lecture phase ultimately focused on knowing God and making Him known. It focused on derooting sins and refilling people's lives with truths. It also focused on becoming who we are in Christ and really living that out. This ended up being a very hard time for me, and there were 2 key areas that I struggled with the most. The first one was my insecurity in my identity. I often became who I thought people wanted me to be or needed me to be in certain situations. And in these times of putting on masks, I didn't realize that it wore down my internal security in my identity. I think that this made me also more vulnerable to the lies of the devil. I struggled with feeling like I wasn't worth anything, that I was ugly, that I was gross, and past sins were like shadows to my identity. To describe this in a picture that I see when I think of these times, it was like a blank board with a bunch of sticky notes covering it. And the notes were filled with both negative and positive titles and labels on them. But they weren't my writings, they were others. And I allowed them to label me, and I accepted them. I accepted them to the point of not knowing one from the other, knowing me versus them, deciphering lies from truths. The second area that I really struggled with during this time was love in general, and that scared me. I couldn't understand why this would be a problem for me to grasp. My whole life was knowing this, that God loved me, that I was His child. There was never a time in my life that I didn't feel love from my family, so why was this an issue? And as time went on, I realized that I did know love in my head, but I began to realize that I didn't know it in my heart. And this was a constant pattern throughout my DTS experience, that I knew the things in my head, but I didn't know them in my heart. These problems tied together in a way. Being loved by God, being His beloved daughter of Christ, it was also a part of my identity. And I began to realize that I had just added these things to the whiteboard. I had allowed the fact that I am a child of God and that I am loved and talented, etc., to blend in with the rest of the sticky notes. Then came the time of derooting. And as I became aware of these things, I had to ask God to help me to remove them from my life, to reveal me the truth, to show me where I had put up walls and let lies sink in without even registering it. To let God show me who I am, for Him to speak to me and fill me. But it wasn't easy. In my head, I imagined that God would just come down and clear a path and burn away all the sticky notes. And I would just wake up in a new way, in the right way. But in this time of waiting on the Lord, He showed me that I had to go deeper within myself. That I couldn't just say these things or write these things down, or even other people, other Christians telling me the truths. It wouldn't solve this issue. I had to go deeper. I had to go to a place inside myself, in my heart, if you will, almost like it was a little dungeon, that I could keep things in that I didn't want to deal with. A place inside myself that I locked, pushed feelings and emotions in. A place where I thought I had dealt with things in the past, but truly I just shoved them inside this space and pretended they didn't exist. A place I didn't want to go to. a place that basically became transparent in my life, and I didn't realize or have to think about putting things in there. It became a nature. It also seemed that I had become numb to my heart. Adoption was in there for me, the feeling of abandonment, and that scared me. It was never a surprise to me one day that I found out that I was adopted. There was never a time that I felt like an outcast from my family. Sure, there were times that were harder than others, but I thought that I had passed all the adoption struggles, and I thought I had already dealt with them. So why was this reoccurring again? And then the question started to sink in. Why? Why was this happening? If this didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be struggling so hard to feel God's love. More hidden emotions and feelings surfaced that tied with adoption and others, and I hated it. Why was this happening? I thought I was supposed to be moving towards the light, clearing this dungeon, and it just seemed like the opposite at the time. And I also started to realize that all these emotions and things in this dungeon were also views that I was looking towards the Lord. I saw him and saw abandonment without even realizing it. So, honestly, I don't understand what happened after that. Lots of prayer and cries to the Lord, praying with others, words from the Lord, reading his word, and really just digging my heels in the truth. It started to make sense. I pushed so much inside that I was numb to the feeling of things. As I worked through these hard things, it felt like the truth started to seep in. Sometimes they would just be, I am blank, I am this, I am that, and it would be easy for me to just have it in my heart. And other times I would have to say the truths out loud or write them down. I am beloved, until I really became my truths. So this piece of my journey is a piece of my journey of coming to accept and know who I am in the Lord. And I am so thankful that I am me, that I am different, that I am unique in my own ways. And I'm thankful that I'm adopted, and I can fully understand the feelings and the image of how I was supposed to be and am adopted into the family of Christ. I am thankful that I went through this journey, though it has been hard. I have seen God through it all, and his timing, his perfect timing, his hand and his forgiveness and grace. If you haven't noticed yet, I see things in pictures. And so I have one last picture before I finish. Today I am getting baptized. Being baptized is committing to join with a partner that is perfect regarding my failings. A partner who loves me when I fail or when I thrive. And maybe partner isn't the best word since we are not equals. But being baptized symbolizes a relationship. Being baptized is like a marriage in my mind. It's like a vow, and I am ready to make that vow.